All right, welcome back. It's a new month. That means there's new sales data to go over in our market. So we're going to look at St. Tammany, Washington, and Tangipahoa parishes all together this month in one video. We'll look at average sales price, number of units sold, days on market, things like that to get an idea for what the market's going to look like moving forward, looking at some past data to speculate on that. I hope you join me. Without further ado, let's jump in. All right, here we are looking at the St. Tammany Parish kind of sales data. This is breaking up into 3 years. I'm going to change that. We're just going to go back for 1 year. And we're going to start with average sale price or median sales price, that is. We're kind of where those things fall into the middle. And again, just like last week, we're going to look at single family and garden patio homes, not going to include condos or townhomes because they're different, in my opinion. So you can see, boy, the average sales price has fallen off since February of this year. I find that to be interesting. Back in February for St. Tammany, the average sales price was $318,000. We bottomed out in July at 291, but look, there was an uptick in the average as of last month, which was 294,000. Let's look at what the closed sales look like. Oh, again, more up and down, but you can see, you know, if you look back to last summer, because we're looking at a year, we had a better summer this year, which I could attest to that. We've been busier. Sales fell off for August. They usually do. So there we are in July and June, July, kind of had the similar number of units sold at 344, 343, and then again it dropped down to 300 for August for St. Tammany Parish. Days on market peaked in March, and then of course that's about the beginning of the buying season, so it would make sense that the days on market would fall. We had a low of 28 in May, and then they picked up a little bit. But look, in August, the average days on market for St. Tammany Parish was still just 34 days. That's a month and a few days. Really not bad data if you're looking at it from that standpoint. That the average homes are sitting on the market for a month. It's not too shabby. Might even be too fast for some of you sellers out there. I hope you're planning properly and having those conversations as you need to. So let's throw in Tangipahoa and Washington Parish. I may pull out St. Tammany if the graph gets a little too busy, but let's start with our neighbor to the west, Tangipahoa. And you could see here that um, they had an uptick in average sales price as well. They topped out in June. It's falling down. Not that big of a deal. 269 was the average sales price in June, and then they finished in August at 254. Still not too terrible. Their closed sales are obviously not going to be as high as us. A little more erratic throughout the year, but that's okay. If you could see, we had more sales this summer than they did last summer, which I find that interesting. That the Tangipahoa sales are just a little lower than they were a year ago. 100 transactions in May, and then they were down to 89 in August, as opposed to St. Tammany's in the 300. So that's 3 times more the volume that's going on over to our neighbor. 3 times less the volume going on to our neighbor to the west, if you want to compare it that way. Days on market, again, they're in the same boat that we are. Your average days on market, they finished in August at 33. Again, they may be selling less homes from a volume standpoint over there, but they're still having the same days on market phenomenon, if you will, going on where homes are on average only sitting there for 30 days or a little bit more. Still very fast in the sales, residential sales, in my opinion. So that's pretty encouraging. Let's flip to Washington Parish real quick. Then I'll put them all three together for you. So you could see, let's start with sales price. They're going to have the lowest of the 3 parishes for sure. Interestingly, their average sale price went up toward the end of the summer. You see those kind of things happen from time to time. But their average sale price is tracking lower than it was a year ago, which I find to be a little interesting. If you compare, August of last year to August of this year, it's higher. But if you look at their peak, which was July of last year, they didn't quite make it back. So safe to say, home prices are falling in Washington Parish. Um, their volume is going to be a lot less. They usually are in below 30 with the number of transactions per month. Um, they finished August stronger than they did in June, um, which is encouraging. But again, the graph kind of follows the same trend for Washington Parish. Their peak was back in April. They fell out in June, and then they almost met April's mark in their August transactions. Days on market over there is probably going to be a little higher. It sure is. You're looking at about more than twice, about twice the days on market of St. Tammany and Tangipahoa. I'm not surprised by this. That would make sense. Washington Parish is a more rural community, way more spread out, different, diverse, and I would say the type of properties that are for sale. So it's not less populated. It would make sense that it would take longer for things to sell over there. Um, so that's the three by themselves. Let me just throw them all together. We'll put St. Tammany back on the first one. We'll start with sales price. And again, interestingly, you have seen a fall in the sales price in St. Tammany Parish. So safe to say, home values are coming down. That is, if you're a seller, obviously you don't want to hear that. If you're a buyer, obviously you do. The reality is this, with the crazy low interest rates we had before COVID, during COVID, values shot up. It made things crazy. Prices needed to kind of level out a little bit, and that's just where we are. So not surprised. Let's look real quick. St. Tammany compared to the entire MLS. My goodness. So St. Tammany is in the red. The entire MLS is in the blue. Would you believe that when they average out the greater New Orleans metropolitan area, that St. Tammany Parish has a higher average home or median home sales price than the whole region does? Interestingly, look at how the months track though. They follow almost the same cycle, but still St. Tammany holding out a little higher than the rest of the region. Let's just look how it compares, closed sales and days on market. Um, St. Tammany is going to be at the bottom with the closed sales, obviously, because we're talking about a whole region versus a parish. And then days on market kind of is following a similar trend. Entire MLS is only at a 40 days on market, which is still super healthy. That would make me, again, excited if I was a seller to know that I'd only be sitting on my house for 30 to 40 days. Okay, let's add Tangi in, and I'm going to add Washington into. It might throw the graph off a little, but that's okay. Yeah, that kind of gets a little busy, but you can see how these play out. Obviously, the average sale price is going to be way higher for St. Tammany, but look at the trend here. You can notice that for Tangi and St. Tammany, the average sale price is falling. It was falling in Washington, picked up in August. Be interesting to see what it does for the remaining months of the year. I would expect to see values stay kind of flat. Maybe they fall a little because there's less properties that are selling, and in order to attract buyers, you see values come down. Be really curious to see how that's going to go. You're going to see home sales flatten out as far as number of closed transactions for the rest of the year. It tends to do that, but I would see the graph pick back up toward the end of the year. And then days on market might climb for Washington Parish. Looks like it's headed an upward trend. Certainly for St. Tammany, it looks like it's kind of heading up, and so for Tangi. So based on that little bit of data, I would expect to maybe see an increase in days on market riding out for the rest of the year. But hey, we're going to check this stuff monthly. Maybe you see it flatten out. Maybe the days on market doesn't get as high as we think. Maybe the closed sales don't do what I think either. One thing does seem to be the writing on the wall is that we're seeing some ease in home prices in St. Tammany and Tangi. I'd be curious to see how that's going to look here as the year finishes out. So that's what I have for August. If there's a particular data point that you would like to hear about, particular um, target area, city, anything that I can get the data to talk to us on, I'd be happy to make a post on that, make a video, show you the data, make a graph, however it works. Feel free to drop me a line, drop a comment, send a DM, however it all works. Reach out to me. You can text me. My phone number is all over the internet too. So however you'd like to see the data, don't hesitate to reach out, say hello, and I'll put something together for you. All right, that's a wrap for the August residential sales data. Thanks again for joining. I hope you enjoyed the stuff that we covered. We'll look forward to covering next month's data as soon as it comes out.